Does cardio impact your gains? Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I thought I would chat with you guys and gals a little bit about this today. Again, one of these topics I see people bring up all the time. They still ask me. I got asked that, in the comments earlier. They're like, "Hey, is it true that cardio negatively affects your muscle growth or strength?" And I'm like, "No. They're like, "Could you do a video on it?" I'm like, "Sure." So this is such a strange idea because, if anything, it appears to be the opposite, right? Oh man, there's a whole can of worms, right? That's a can of worms that cardio could actually, in the long term, improve your gains. Conditioning improves your gains. I actually happen to believe that to be the case, by the way. So when these topics come up and people bring this up and they say, cardio can interfere with your gains. Well, really high intensity cardio can, if it overlaps with the recovery, like in your legs on your leg day, for example, right? But generally more intermediate cardio, list cardio, things like that, no, not really. Now, that being said, does it use up some of your recovery resources a little bit? Sure, until you adapt to it. And I think that is the point that people need to remember with this topic. Adding new novel training stimulus that you are not used to yet does what? It can use some of your recovery resources. But what happens if it's added gradually and it's not significant? It doesn't really have a negative effect, does it? And we know this to be the case. When it comes to cardio, we generally know that if you add it in very gradually and you have time to acclimate to it, it shouldn't negatively impact your results in the gym. It shouldn't impact them. Now, that being said, if you're trying to add cardio to your training, then yeah, it makes a lot of sense. It makes a whole lot of sense to add it very gradually in regard to that, okay? But especially the lower intensity. But lower intensity cardio, you can add at a relatively quick pace, meaning you can start doubling the amount you do sometimes over the course of a week or two. Okay, but the thing with that is you have to be adapted to it. All right, and once you're adapted, there's no negative. Now, could higher intensity cardios like HIIT and sprinting and things, can that interfere with gains? Yeah, in the sense that it can impede recovery between sessions on leg days. Okay, so it is something that people have to think about who are engaging in very high intensity cardio. Okay, but again, once you've acclimated to it, it's probably pretty reasonable. So the thing that I want people to think about is that when you're in good shape, okay, and you've done a lot of cardio, it's actually a lot easier to recover from lifting, okay? Because while you're doing it, sure, there can be some recovery geared towards that, particularly if you're adding new amounts of cardio. Of course, it affects it. But once you are used to it, what happens? Helps you clear waste products. And if it helps you clear waste products, then it starts to enhance recovery. Okay? If it improves blood flow, capillary beds, the ability of your heart, the ability of your system to clear different metabolites and waste products, and you have now adapted to it, meaning it's no longer a novel training response, well, then it may actually do the opposite. It may actually help your gains. Okay, and it can do that through a number of different reasons. Obviously, the recovery at the end matters. Okay, that's kind of a big deal. So if you have a more efficient system, more efficient cardiovascular system, better capillary beds, all these things from doing this stuff, then what? Yeah, it can speed up recovery. And if it can speed up recovery, that's not by itself going to cause muscle growth, no. But it will enhance recovery. And if your recovery is enhanced, you can do more training. you can possibly train more often, or you can increase volumes per session. And that's the big kicker. All right, I've said many times, training volume itself will tend to improve growth stimulus, but you have to be able to recover from it. Is the person who is in good shape cardiovascularly, are they better able to recover from training volumes? I think that they are. I think the answer here is a clear yes. And if that's the case, then they can do more total training volume and benefit from it. Well, what that happens, if you can do more training volume and still recover from it and benefit from it, then you're going to get more muscle growth. Okay? So we have that to factor in. All right? What about work density? People who are in shape, who do more cardio, can recover faster between sets. And if you can replicate a performance faster between sets, you can get the same amount of volume done in less time. Why does that matter? Well, it makes better efficient use of your time in the gym. And if you can do that, again, if you have so much time that you can allocate, I mean, you can do more work in that time. Now, we could argue then, yeah, but the cardio then took time on top of that. True. And again, that's a factor. But do you see where we're going with all of this? When people are over here going, well, if you do cardio, it eats into your gains. But it doesn't appear to be the case. Doesn't appear to be the case, right? It doesn't burn through gains. Some people would even argue it lets you eat more food. You may have a larger anabolic signal from that. Okay, that's a big deal. So when we look at this is a bit of a nuanced topic. It is very complicated. But for someone to say, will doing cardio in general cost you muscle growth? Well, depending upon your lifestyle, depending on a lot of factors, it could for a very short period of time, but then the opposite will occur. So the point here is that the act of getting into shape can be problematic for that until you get used to the new workload. And then in which case, once you're in the better shape, it can actually facilitate better gains over time. At least hypothetically. So your other option there with that is, of course, to also add cardio in very slowly and very gradually rather than trying to do a whole bunch at once out of nowhere. Right? And that is really the real solution so that it doesn't impact gains negatively to any significant degree, but in the long term gives you better recovery.